Those stories shortly, but first we start this morning with North and South Korea. They've kicked off their first formal talks in more than 2 years. They brought together the sport to discuss how the North athletes can attend next month's Winter Olympics in South Korea, despite simmering tensions and fears of conflict between the two Asian neighbors. Vehicles transporting the South Korean delegation, led by Chu Myung-gyeon, the Minister of South Korea's Unification Ministry, drove past a checkpoint on the Grand Unification Bridge that leads to the truce, the village of Panmunjom, just south of the DMZ, the demilitarized zone that separates the north and the south. 5 senior officials from each side met at the 3-story peace office on the South Korean side on the Panmunjom truce village. It started around 10 o'clock local time. The North Korean delegation walked over the border inside the joint security area to the Peace Air House. Since early 2016, though, South Korea had been making repeated attempts to hold talks with its neighbor. Seoul had been calling North Korea twice daily from a special hotline in the DMZ, which is a heavily guarded border that separates the two countries. Well, finally, last week, North Korea answered. Pyongyang also sent out a fax stating that its representatives would be traveling to the Peace House that is located on the South Korean side of Panmunjom for those talks. Well, the breakthrough came after the United States and South Korea agreed to delay the joint military exercises. Now, this is what North Korea considers a massive threat. The drill was delayed until after next month's Winter Olympics, which is being held in South Korea.
남조선에서 머지않아 열리는 겨울철 올림픽 경기대회에 대해 말한다면 그것은 민족의 위상을 과시하는 좋은 계기로 될 것이며 우리는 대회가 성과적으로 개최되기를 진심으로 바랍니다. 이러한 견지에서 우리는 대표단 파견을 포함하여 필요한 조치를 취할 용의가 있으며 이를 위해 북남 당국이 시급히 만날 수도 있을 것입니다.
Well, ahead of the talk, the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, extended the deadline for the registration of the North Korean athletes for the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. Only a figure skating pair from North Korea has secured a spot in the Games. Meanwhile, those who live in South Korea are a little upbeat about the sports diplomacy between the two countries. Now, they believe that the talks will be a precursor to many more bilateral talks in the near future.
1차적으로는 평창 올림픽을 안전하게 치르는 것이 중요하고 그 다음에는 좀 더 나아가가지고 사실은 뭐 여러 가지 그 국제 정세로 보면 굉장히 어려운 상황이지만은 그래도 핵 문제를 일단 끄집어내 가지고 일단 이야기를 시작할 수 있는 단초가 되지 않겠느냐 이번 회담이.
스포츠 얘기를 통해서 평창 올림픽 때 남과 북이 만나서 우리가 전쟁 위협으로 또 한 발자국 더 물러설 수 있는 그 전쟁 위협을 방지할 수 있는 이런 기회가 되고.
Well, the meeting is being closely watched by world leaders for any sign of a reduction in tension on the Korean peninsula amid rising fears over North Korea's development of nuclear weapons and the defiance of the United Nations Security Council resolutions.
作为朝鲜半岛的近邻，中方欢迎并且支持朝韩双方近来就缓和相互关系采取的积极举动。我们也希望国际社会所有有关各方都能够对这一积极动向给予支持，并且呢能够共同努力找到缓解紧张、增进互信、恢复对话协商的好的办法。
Tale prospettiva è di primaria importanza che si possa sostenere ogni tentativo di dialogo nella penisola coreana, al fine di trovare nuove strade per superare le attuali contrapposizioni, accrescere la fiducia reciproca e assicurare un futuro di pace al popolo coreano e al mondo intero.
To get more perspective on this, we're now joined by WION senior editor Surya Gangadharan, joining us now live on the very latest. Surya, good morning to you. With regards to the talks between North and South Korea, certainly a crucial one, especially something that the United States is also going to be watching very closely. What do we expect to happen? Is this a step in the right direction?
Well, that's one of the funny things about this this dialogue. It's clear that they will discuss the forthcoming Winter Olympics, but beyond that, it's not very clear what the North Koreans want. You know, what is it that they've come to talk about? Because obviously, when you're meeting after nearly 3 years, it's an opportunity to look at all those other issues that have remained unaddressed all this time. So, exactly what are the North Koreans prepared to talk about is something we still don't know as yet. And the South Koreans will also be a little wary because do remember that they are in an alliance with the U.S. and the U.S. is their sole guarantee of defense in the event of a North Korean invasion. So there is not very much they can do or offer the North Koreans if they are to keep that alliance with the U.S. intact. So a lot of dilemmas there, a lot of confusion as to exactly what the agenda will be. We'll have to wait and see how the talks progress.
Surya, when it comes to North and South Korea, this is something that hasn't happened in a while. Certainly the Olympics could be a focal point, as you mentioned, but perhaps is there international pressure? Is this perhaps why Kim Jong-un is setting out the stage right now, or is this really just a farce? Because previously we've seen North Korea really doesn't pay too much heed to what world leaders, Western powers, or even the UN Security Council has to say. Is this perhaps just a show of force to say that, hey, we are trying, but or is it just too early to tell at this point?
So the North Koreans have been under sanctions for many, many years. And I think since they're continuing to receive perhaps some kind of fuel supplies from China and perhaps from some other countries, they're in a position to continue. But clearly there may be a realization within that they need to take a step forward and try and end the situation. Which is why they reached out to South Korea, clearly in an attempt to widen the gap between them and the U.S. Whether that will work, not clear, it may not. But nevertheless, the North Koreans are under some kind of pressure, but not under the kind of pressure which will make them give up their nuclear weapons. That they will not do. What they want is a dialogue, a direct dialogue with the U.S. President Trump has indicated that he's prepared to talk to the North Korean leader on the phone. Maybe there's some ground there for a broader dialogue involving the U.S.
All right. Let's also bring in former CIA intelligence officer Glenn Carl, joining us now live from Massachusetts in the United States. Glenn, thanks so much for joining us. It's been about 2 hours now since the meeting has taken place in Seoul. It started around 10 o'clock local time there. When it comes to the discussions on the table, inter-Korean relations, the participation in the upcoming Winter Olympic Games are on the agenda. What do we expect to happen, though, in the days and the weeks ahead? Is this a step in the right direction, or is this just perhaps North Korea trying to play its diplomatic cards well? Glenn?
Well, I think, yes, thanks for having me to chat with you. I think that it's a good move by the South Koreans and the North, actually, from their national perspectives. And even it probably serves the U.S. objectives, because I don't really believe the U.S. Wants a war, although the U.S. has boxed itself in with rather dramatic statements by Donald Trump. So this serves for the North Koreans to, just as our colleague a moment ago said, to draw out a bit of a wedge between South Korea, whose prime minister is keen to have, or a strong supporter of talking to the North, and with the United States, which has taken a rather intransigent position: no nuclear weapons, or no for the North, or no person talks. So I think it's a smart move. I also think that the variable in the equation has really been Donald Trump. North Korea has been quite consistent, and I'm no fan of North Korea, but their nuclear weapons program, the missile program, is a way to have national pride, but to keep their national independence from potential American invasion. And they are succeeding in that.
And Glenn, you know, interestingly, on New Year's Day last week, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, perhaps surprisingly, took to more of a conciliatory note when it came to peaceful resolutions with the South. I mean, what is the equation there? I mean, certainly knowing that the United States and South Korea conducting their drills are allies, is this perhaps a move by Kim Jong-un to provoke U.S. President Donald Trump to maybe build an ally in South Korea? I mean, are we reading too much into this?
No, I think it was. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because it was by the North Koreans a softer position, and it did give an opening for the negotiations with the talk we're seeing now in a reduction in tensions. It was only Donald Trump really who reacted with a Manichean, childish and churlish tweet, of course. So it seemed to me, that statement, to signal a consistent North Korean policy, which is that they will not, under any circumstances, give up their nuclear weapons and missile programs, and they seek national independence at the minimum. Now, whether they have more devious objectives and unification on terms that the South itself wouldn't want, and to, at the same time, to drive such a wedge between the South and the United States that the United States can be maneuvered out of South Korea is also possible. But they, to me, have played an astute hand here in the last week or so, and we're seeing the talks, and the South is open to reducing tensions.
Absolutely. Certainly the world is watching, and certainly U.S. President Donald Trump eager to find out how those talks unfolded between North and South Korea. Glenn Carl joining us from the United States and Surya Gangadharan, thanks for chiming in on this topic.